All right, let's talk about an emotion that every single person listening has felt: fear. You know, it's a funny thing. It can literally save your life one minute, but then totally hold you back the next. So, what exactly is it? Where does it come from? And how does it get such a powerful grip on our minds?
So, let's just jump right in with the big question, right? Is fear a bug in our programming, a glitch, or is it a feature, something put there on purpose? Well, as we're about to find out, the real answer is it's kind of both.
Okay, so at its most basic level, fear is this deep, primal feeling. You can think of it as our ancient built-in warning system. It evolved for one simple reason: to keep our ancestors from, being eaten or falling off cliffs. It's the brain's way of just screaming, "Hey, pay attention, this could be really, really bad."
To really get what fear is all about, we have to look at how it physically gets our bodies ready for action. Because it's not just some vague feeling in your head, not at all. It's a full-body experience that's designed for one single purpose: survival.
I'm sure you've heard of it, right? The fight-or-flight response. It's this incredible automatic survival mechanism that just takes over. It instantly gets you ready to either stand your ground and fight the threat, or get the heck out of there. It's pure raw instinct kicking in before you've even had a chance to process what's happening.
And get this whole thing happens in a split-second chain reaction. It all starts the moment your eyes or ears pick up on a potential threat. Instantly, your brain's command center, the hypothalamus, hits the panic button. That triggers this massive surge of hormones. We're talking adrenaline and cortisol that flood your system, making your heart pound, your senses sharpen, and your muscles get primed for action.
Okay, so that's the what. But what about the why? I mean, why are you scared of spiders, but maybe not of, say, cars? Where do our specific fears actually come from? Are we born with them, or do we learn them? Well, this brings us to that classic debate: nature versus nurture.
And it pretty much boils down to two big ideas. On one hand, you've got nature. The theory of preparedness says we're basically hardwired to fear things that were a major threat to our evolutionary ancestors. Snakes, heights, spiders. That would explain why those fears are so incredibly common. But then there's the nurture side, which is huge. Through conditioning, we learn to fear stuff based on our own bad experiences, or even just by watching someone else have a bad experience.
And there's this classic study, and let's be honest, it was pretty ethically messed up, called the Little Albert experiment. It showed just how powerful this learned fear can be. Researchers took this baby, and every time they showed him a harmless white rat, they'd make a super loud, scary noise. Pretty soon, just seeing the rat made him cry. But here's the wild part. That fear started to spread. He became afraid of other furry things: a rabbit, a dog, even a Santa Claus mask. It proves that these learned fears can totally grow and take on a life of their own.
So, what happens when this perfectly normal fear response, whether it's baked in or learned, just goes completely off the rails? When a healthy sense of caution crosses a line and becomes this crippling disorder, well, that's when we've entered the territory of phobias.
Now, a phobia isn't just being really, really scared of something. We're talking about a clinical condition. It's when the fear you feel is just completely, wildly out of proportion to the actual danger. And it's persistent. It lasts for months, even years. And it can make people go to absolutely extreme length to avoid whatever it is they're afraid of.
And you might be really surprised to see just how common phobias are. I mean, look at this. In the Western world, specific phobias, fear of flying, fear of animals, that's about 7% of the population. And social phobia, which is also called social anxiety, that's another 7%. When you add it all up, that's millions and millions of people dealing with this. It's a major challenge.
And digging into social anxiety a little more, at its very core, you often find this one specific dread: the fear of negative evaluation, or FNE. And this isn't just being a little shy. It's this intense, overwhelming fear of being judged, picked apart, and in the end, rejected by other people. It can make even the most normal social situations feel absolutely terrifying.
So to really understand what's going haywire with a phobia, we need to pop the hood and look at the brain's own internal alarm system. And the star of this show is this tiny almond-shaped part of our brain that's basically our 24/7 threat detector.
Just think of the amygdala as your own personal smoke detector. It's absolutely essential for warning you when there's a real fire, a real danger. But in anxiety disorders and phobias, that smoke detector is just way too sensitive. It starts going off for burnt toast. And here's the kicker. Our modern world can totally hijack this ancient system. Things like constant dings from social media or stressful news alerts, they can act just like that burnt toast, setting off that low-level fear response again and again and again.
And the thing is, the amygdala doesn't work alone. It's the hub of this super fast fear circuit. So here's how it works. Information from your senses first hits the thalamus. That's the brain's main relay station. From there, it zips over to the cortex to figure out, okay, what am I seeing? And to the hippocampus to check your memories. Have I seen this before? Was it bad? All that info feeds into the amygdala, which makes the final call. Is this a threat? If it screams, yes, it tells the hypothalamus to unleash that full-body fight-or-flight response we talked about. Now with a phobia, that entire circuit is on a hair trigger.
But here is the really good news. Because so many of our fears are learned, it means our brains can also be trained to unlearn them. Our brains are incredibly flexible. They're plastic. And that means with the right kind of work, we can actually go in and rewire those faulty fear circuits.
One of the absolute best ways to do this is with something called exposure therapy. It's based on a really simple but really powerful idea. You have to confront the thing you're afraid of in a controlled and safe way to prove to your brain that your fear is irrational. You're basically teaching that oversensitive smoke detector how to chill out.
And there are basically two main ways to go about this. The first is called systematic desensitization. Think of it like taking the stairs, one step at a time. If you're afraid of spiders, you might start by just looking at a cartoon picture of a spider, then a real photo, then maybe a video, until eventually you can be in the same room with one. The other method is called flooding, and it's pretty much like jumping into the deep end of the pool. It's intense, full-on exposure to the fear until that panic just naturally burns itself out.
And the results from these therapies are just incredible. With treatments like cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which almost always uses some form of exposure, up to 90%, that's 90, of people can overcome their phobias. It just goes to show you that fear, no matter how powerful it feels, does not have to be a life sentence.
So that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. Understanding the science behind our fear. From our deep instincts to the wiring in our brains, that's really the first step to getting a handle on it. It's not about becoming fearless. Nobody's fearless. It's about understanding your fear so it doesn't get to control you. So I'll just leave you with this. What would you do if you weren't afraid?